Hey everyone, my name is Mohammed El Sankri. I'm a senior at Hamden Hall, and as a member of Mu Alpha Theta, we're going to be providing you guys with some SAT practice. I'll be covering topics including proportions, ratios, percentages, and rates. So without further ado, we're going to start off with question number 1, and it reads, the ratio of A to B is 3 to 2, the ratio of X to Y is 5 to 6. What is the ratio of AX to BY? So I'm going to go ahead and highlight what we're looking for and get right into the question. So we have A to B, which can also be written as A over B, is equal to 3 over 2. And the same can be done to the other ratio. X over Y is equal to 5 over 6. And we're looking for AX to BY, which can also be written as AX over BY or A over B times X over Y. Now, we already know what A over B is because we have that over here. And we know what X over Y is as we have over here. So all we have to do is plug in, and we're actually going to do 3 over 2 times 5 over 6, which gives us 15 over 12. And we're always going to want to remember to simplify the top and the bottom by 3 to give us 5 over 4. We see that the answer that matches up is letter B. Moving on to number 3, the question reads, Jeff traveled 150 miles in 3 hours. How many miles can he travel in 7 hours? So the first thing we're going to want to do is write the question out, which is 150 miles driven in 3 hours. And we're going to want to find out how many miles Jeff traveled in a single hour. So what we're going to do is divide the top and the bottom by 3, which will give us 50 miles for every 1 hour. And it's important to note that we're looking for the distance traveled in 7 hours. So what we're going to do is multiply the top and the bottom by 7, which gives us 350 miles over 7 hours. And the answer that matches up is letter B. Moving on, we have number 4, and the question reads, Tammy can paint a house in 7 hours, and Hans can paint the same house in 5 hours. If Tammy and Hans work together to paint the house, how long do they need? So we're actually going to give the house a value, whether that be the surface area or whatever it is. We can just call it X. And the time it takes Tammy to paint the house is 7 hours. So that can be written as the amount of the surface area over 7. I'm just going to put a little T so we know it's Tammy. And we're going to do the same thing for Hans. And it's the house over 5 hours. And they're working together to paint this house. So we're actually going to add these two values. And we're going to divide the whole surface area of the house over the time it takes both of them to paint. So that'll be X over 7 plus X over 5. And we're going to need to find a common denominator, which is 35. And put 5 up here and 7. And that comes out to 12x over 35. And don't forget to put the x on top of that. And we're just going to do our math up here. So x over 1 times the reciprocal of the bottom, 35 over 12, 12x. And the x here cancels out. So we can go straight across and get 35 over 12 hours. And we know that that will simplify out to, if we use a calculator or if you know this on the top of your head, it will come out to 2 hours and 55 minutes. And we see that D is the answer that matches. We're going to move on to number 5. The question reads, at the beginning of a term, there are 50 students that attended a course. So we have a total of 50. After a few weeks, 10 boys dropped the course. So it doesn't matter that they were boys. We just know that 10 students dropped the course. And the rest of the class, you know that 30% were boys. How many girls attended the course? So we're going to highlight that last question and get right into the question. And we know that 50 was our initial, and 10 boys dropped the class, or 10 students, which leaves us with 40 total students. And we know that 30% of those students were boys, so that means that 70% were girls. And in order to find that specific value, we're going to set up a proportion. So 70 over 100 equals the part over the whole. So in this case, the part is the number of girls in the class, and the whole is the total number of students in the class. And we're just going to go diagonal, doing cross multiplication. It gives us 70x equals, that will give us 100x equals 2800. And then we're going to want to divide by 100 on both sides, and that gives us x equals 28, x also being the number of girls in the class. So you see that B is the answer that matches up. Moving on, we have number 6. We have x over 5 equals 2x minus 3 over 6. And we are looking for the value of x. So when you see this question, you're going to want to know that this is a proportions question, and you're going to want to do some cross multiplication. So that's exactly what it means, and you're just going to go directly across diagonally, and that'll give you 5 times 2x minus 3 is equal to 6x. It's important to remember to distribute this number into the complete equation and not just the first number, or the first part. So that gives us 10x minus 15 equals 6x. And then we're going to want to bring the x values over to one side, and that gives us negative 15x is equal to negative 4x. We're going to want to divide by 4 on both sides to isolate x. And since the negatives cancel out, we have 15 over 4 equals x. And we see that A ends up being our answer. Moving on, we have letter number 7, and that reads, if x over 3 equals x minus a over 3 minus a, with x not being 0, then what is the value of x? So we're looking for x again, and we're going to do the same thing, cross multiply with the equation. So we're going to do 3 times x minus a equals x times 3 minus a, and then multiply the terms in there. So 3x, so we're going to do 3x minus 3a equals 3x minus ax. And we see that we have 2 of the same terms. So if you ever see that, you know that you can just cancel them out because they are equal to each other. So that leaves us with negative 3a equals negative ax. And then we're going to want to divide by a so that we can cancel out. And that gives us negative 3 equals negative x. And the x, or the negatives cancel out. So you have x equals 3, And our answer is C. Next up, we have number 8, and that reads, if x over 3a equals x minus a over 4 plus 5a, what is x in terms of a? So again, we're going to highlight that we're looking for x in terms of a. So that means we're going to have a value of x equal, or x equals some value including a. So we know that a will be in our answer. Now, we're going to do the same approach as the previous two questions and cross multiply diagonally. So we have 3a times x minus a equals x distributed into 4 plus 5a. Just going to go in there, do the math. Simple multiplication. So 3ax minus 3a squared equals 4x plus 5ax. And we're going to get every value, or every term with an x value, onto one side. So we're going to take 3ax, subtract it from this side, into the other side. And we're just going to bring this down. So we have minus 3a squared equals 4x plus 2ax. And we're going to want to isolate x. So we see that x is in both terms here. So we can actually factor it out. So I'm going to bring down this minus 3a squared equals x distributed by 4 plus 2a. So what we're actually going to do is divide this whole part by 4 plus 2a so that we can leave x by itself. Bring it over here, 4 plus 2a, and we have our x equals a value in terms of a, as we stated before, and the answer choice that matches up is B. Alright, so we're going to skip ahead to some proportion problems, and we're going to start with number 11. So the question reads, if x and y are directly proportional, and when x equals 7, y equals 16, then what is the value of y when x equals 4? So I'm going to start off by highlighting what the question is asking for. So it's asking for the value of y when x is equal to 4. Now, we already know that when x is 7, y is 16. And there's actually an equation for that you can use for all of these proportion problems. And that is y equals kx. So the value of y, or the value of x, is multiplied by a certain number to give you y when they are proportional. So we're going to do that. We're going to plug in the x and y we're given to find what that k value is. So it will be 16 equals 7k. And then we're going to divide by 7 on both sides to isolate k. And we have that k is equal to 16 over 7. So now we're going to use this equation again in order to figure out the value of y when x is 4. So y equals 4 times 16 over 7. And multiply straight across, and that gives us 64 over 7. And we see that the answer that matches up here is B. Next, we have number 12, and the question reads, if y and x are directly proportional, and when x equals 5 and y equals 14, then what is the value of x when y equals 4? So we're going to use the same equation that I mentioned before, and I'm going to write it over here in red. Y equals kx. So we're going to find that k value by plugging in the numbers, and we're going to do 14 equals 5k. then we're going to divide, and we see that our k is 14 over 5, and then it is asking us the value of x when y is 4, right here. So what we're going to do is plug in again with our k value. So 4 equals 14 over 5, or k, and then we're looking for x. So you can go both ways. You can either divide or multiply the x into the k value. So that's what I'll do. And I'll do 4 equals 14x over 5. I'm going to multiply 5 on both sides. And I'm going to bring it down over here. So 20 equals 14x. And divide by 14 on both sides to isolate our x. Left with 20 over 14. Choose to simplify that. It's 10 over 7. Slide over to the next page, and we see that D is our answer. So finally, we're going to skip ahead to number 23 to cover one last percentage problem so that we finish every topic in this lesson. So the question reads, a shop buys a kind of coat with $30 and then sells the coat after adding 15% on the price. At the end of the season, the shop wants to sell all the coats, so they decrease 20% on the price. What is the price of the coat at the end of the season? So we're just going to highlight what the question is asking, and it's asking for the final price after the first addition and then the decrease on the price. So we're going to start with our $30, and then we're going to add 15% onto it. So we're finding 15% of $30. You put 30 on the bottom because you're finding the part of the whole. And we can go ahead and do cross multiplication as we did plenty of times in this lesson. And you do 100x equals 450. And then divide both sides by 100 to isolate x. And you end up with x equals 4.5. And since we're increasing, we're going to add that onto the $30. So we're going to get 34.5. Now we're going to take the next step and decrease 20% of 34.5. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to find 20% of that whole. So x over 34.5. Now, just a little tip, if you're on a time crunch and it's pretty late in the test, there's an easier way to do this, and you can start by taking 10% of 34.5 first. So the way you do that is you move the decimal point over one space. So you move it over one space so that you have 3.45, and that is equal to 10%. And since you're trying to find 20%, you're going to multiply this by 2. And that gives us 6.90. And we're going to subtract this from the 34.5. And for the sake of time, I already did it. And that ends up giving us $27.60. And that is the final price of the coat at the end of the season. And this is an open-ended question, so this is one of the questions you might find at the end of the SAT section. So there's no actual multiple choice. There are no choices for this question, so you're just gonna have to write it in. And that concludes our lesson. I hope you learned something, and I hope this helps you crush the SAT section. Be sure to watch all the other videos on the channel in order to get a great score in the SAT math section. Thanks for watching. So that concludes our lesson for today. I hope you learned something. Be sure to watch all of the other videos on this channel to ensure that you're able to crush the SAT math section. Have a great day and good luck.